morning to all the participants and today's speaker, Dr. Sohanlal Jain. And it is my pleasant duty to welcome all of you on behalf of Space Education and Research Foundation and on my personal behalf. Today's talk by Dr. Sohanlal Jain is going to be on impact of the atmospheric pollutants on the health of living beings. Before I invite him to speak on this very important topic, I would like to give a brief introduction of Dr. Sohanlal Jain. He was born on 7th June 1946 in Islamabad village, in Isarmand village in Rajasthan. He had a very excellent academic career. He did his BSc, MSc and PhD from Udaipur University. Before completing his PhD in 1974, he was offered an assistant professorship in Udaipur University, where he taught students, physics students, for 2 years. And in 1975, he was offered a position of scientist at National Physical Laboratory, New Delhi, India, where he joined in 1975 and did a very wonderful atmospheric research work. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is a LIDAR man in India. He has developed differential absorption LIDAR, micropulse LIDAR. He developed laser heterodyne systems and many other systems he indigenously designed, developed and installed them at National Physical Laboratory in New Delhi, and some of them were also installed by him in the Antarctic Observatory of Government of India, and he did a very wonderful research work with these. In 2005, he retired as the head of the Radio Science Division at National Physical Laboratory. He remained during his research tenure, was chairman of several important committees of the National Physical Laboratory. And after his superannuation for 5 years, he also served the institute as an emeritus scientist. In 1979 to 1981, he was NASA's NRC associate at JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Los Angeles, USA. And there has been several scientific teams to go to do scientific experiments at Antarctic Observatory of Government of India. He was member of the team in 13th, 16th and 21st scientific teams. In 21st team, he was also the deputy leader of the team. He has been principal investigator of several important projects like IFCAR, NCOR and APN. He has widely traveled for his research work and presenting his papers at various conferences and meetings. He has published 70 very good scientific papers and made 250 presentations. 4 PhD students have completed their PhD under his supervision. In India, there is a good educational TV program called Turning Point. In several of those programs, he participated. He also has authored written chapters in 8 books on atmospheric science. And today's lecture, after today's lecture, there will be a question paper. Those who wish to get certificate may fill this question paper. This question paper will remain on our blog and Facebook up to 23rd June, and you are given chance to fill it only once. With these few words, now I invite Dr. Sohanlal Jain to present his talk. Dr. Sohanlal Jain, please. And I will hide out from here.
Good morning, friends. At the outset, let me thank Professor Watts for giving a wonderful introduction and giving me the opportunity to interact with you people. Uh, and I will be talking today on the impact of the atmospheric pollutants on the health of living organisms under the second talk of this webinar, that is air pollution and health, under the umbrella of Space Education and Research Foundation, Ahmedabad. So let us start with the talk. So the plan of my talk is like this. The introduction, some introduction will be given, then air pollutants and their sources, impact of pollutants on the health of the human beings, animals and plants, some measurements done by ourselves in the group, and impact of the pollutants on economy, and some conclusions. I hope you will like it. The air pollution is undoubtedly most problematic type of pollution, as it may involve serious long-term health effects. It is made worse by the fact that everyone would be exposed. Everyone needs to breathe it. You can choose the water what you want to drink. You can choose the brand of the water, but you don't have a choice. You can't do much about the air you breathe. And if you know, at least 20,000 liters of air you breathe every day. 20,000 liters of breath, and that goes in your body, and that is affected us if the air is polluted. According to WHO, air pollution accounts for as many as 7 million premature deaths worldwide each year. This includes not only outdoor air pollution from vehicles, industrial sources, and power generation, but also indoor air pollution from the burning fuels of the cooking or heating. Most of these deaths occur in the developing world, in countries where environmental regulations are less strict and the population lack access of the clean energy. One negative effect of the air pollution is to create levels of dense smoke which may prevent sunlight from reaching the mother planet, the earth. In turn, this diminishes the ability of the plants to carry out the life-supporting process of this photosynthesis. Pollution also reduces air quality, which has detrimental effect on human and animals by causing respiratory irritation and asthma. Pollution in the form of insecticides and pesticides may interfere with the growth of crops and aid toxins into key water sources. A famous sulfurous smoke is also known as London smoke. This type of smoke is the result of high volume of sulfur oxides found in the air. Sulfurous smoke is the result of burning sulfur-bearing fossil fuels. An example of this type of fossil fuels is coal. Thousands of people, died in London during 3-4 days due to smog in 1952. This is one of the biggest tragedy till date. Then another type of smog is photochemical smog. This is also called the Los Angeles smog. This type of smoke is result of the nitrogen oxides and hydrocarbon vapors exiting from the vehicles. Photochemical smog can reduce visibility and cause eye irritation and respiratory distress due to the production of high surface ozone during this Los Angeles smog or the photochemical smog. Ambient air pollution, that is the outdoor air pollution, originates from the natural and as well as anthropogenic sources. While natural sources contribute substantially to the local air pollution in arid regions more prone to the forest fires and the dust storms, the contribution of from the human activities, that is the anthropogenic sources, far exceeds the natural sources. Human activities that are the major sources of the outdoor air pollution is listed below. The fuel combustion from the motor cars and heavy duty vehicles, heat and power generation such as oil, coal, power plants, boilers, industrial facilities such as manufacturing, factories, mines and oil refineries, municipal and agriculture waste sites and waste incinerators and burning of the waste, residential cooking, heating, lighting with polluting fuels, poor urban planning and transportation. That is some of the uh, anthropogenic activities which affect the air quality. Some of the types of pollutants are particulate matter, black carbon, ground level ozone, or you can say surface ozone, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxides, and carbon monoxides. Most of this is from the industry and the vehicles emission. Particulate matter are the inhalable and respiratory particles composed of the sulfates. They are composed of say sulfates, nitrates, ammonia, sodium chloride, black carbon, mineral dust and water, etc. Particles with a diameter of less than 10 micrometer, that is PM10, and including fine particles less than 2.5, that is PM2.5, pose the greatest risk to the health as they are capable of penetrating people lungs and entering their bloodstream, which is the main cause of the health effects. Sources of PM or particulate matter include combustion engines, both diesel and petrol, solid fuel, that is coal, lignite, heavy oil and biomass combustion for energy production in the households and industry, as well as other industrial activities such as building, mining, manufacturing of cement, ceramic and bricks, and smelting, etc. Black carbon is a major component of particulate matter 2.5 and driver of climate change, also known as, this is also, black carbon is also known as short-lived climate pollutant, or SLCP, that is short-lived climate pollutant. So this persists, this type of this black carbon persists in the atmosphere for a shorter period compared to CO2. Despite its very short lifetime, black carbon is one of the largest contributor to the global warming after CO2. It also known to decrease the agriculture yields and accelerate glacier melting. And that's indirectly, that is the level of sea rise. Most emission of the ambient air pollutions are from local sources under certain meteorological conditions. They can travel long distances across national borders in few days and thereby affecting the people of far away from its original sources. So they are produced somewhere and affect somewhere else. So they can travel a long distances. The wind-borne dust from deserts regions of the Africa, Mongolia, Central Asia, and China can carry particulate matters, fungal spores, and bacteria that impact health in remote areas. Therefore, global cooperation is needed to address the international flows and sources of their pollutants. This is one of the very important thing which has to be taken into consideration in the international talks. The ambient air quality standards developed by WHO and by various other countries, including India, are given below. So this is the guidelines for the each pollutants by WHO, that is PM 2.5. In a year average, it should not exceed 10 micrograms per meter cube. In 24 hours, it should not increase more than 25 micrograms per meter cube for the safe health. And for a 1 year, it should not exceed 20. The PM10 should not exceed 20 micrograms per meter cube for the safe health, and for 24 hours, it should not exceed 50 micrograms per meter cube. Similarly, for ozone, for 8 hours or daily maximum, it should not exceed 100 micrograms per meter cube. Similarly, for the standards for nitrogen oxide and sulfur dioxides are given here. And these are the ambient air quality standards for India for sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, PM10, PM2.5, ozone, and lead. So most of them are similar to that of the WHO standards, but plus minus some variation due to the local conditions. And you can change the ambient pressure at one ambient pressure, that 1 atmosphere. The general equation for conversion from microgram per meter cube to parts per million by volume, or micrograms per meter, milligrams per meter cube to parts per million by using this equation, where 12.187 is the inverse of the Guest constant, and MW is the molecular weight of the constituents, say ozone for 48, and 273 is the absolute temperature, and T is the local temperature at which you want to convert it. So concentration, this equation gives in milligrams per meter cube, and if you divide this whole component by 2C, then you can get the parts per million or parts per billion, depending on the you are using milligram or microgram. These are the cities as per the WHO, 10 most polluted cities in the world as per 2018 data. Jabal in Iran is the most polluted city in the world, and Gwalior, India is the next one, Allahabad, third one, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, all the while in Saudi Arabia, fifth one, Delhi is, say my own, is sixth in the world to be most polluted city. Raipur again India, so you can see out of 10 cities, 4 are in India and 2 in China and 2 in Saudi Arabia. So this is the condition of the China, which is 10th most polluted city, and this is the condition which is the one of the top most polluted city in the world. This slide shows among the 10 mega cities, That is urban areas having population more than 14 million inhabitants. Delhi and Cairo here. Delhi is almost 225 micrograms per meter cube, and Cairo is the next one, that is 175 micrograms per meter cube, the average value. So 10 the most polluted cities in the having the population above or up to 14 million inhabitants is given here. In the last week, Delhi was almost having the very difficult conditions, very poor conditions regarding the air pollution, and say on June 11 at 5 p.m. this was 201 micrograms per meter cube, and on 12 June it increased to, at 12 noon it increased to 305, then at 6 p.m. it was 405. On June 13, you see it increased from 505 to 823 micrograms per meter cube, and next day 14 June it was almost 1023 micrograms per meter cube, and the whole sky is brownish with all dust coming from the western part of the country, western. This is the slide when they observed on the 17th November 2017 our India Gate in Delhi, where the high level of dust particles came from the western Asia and engulfed the city and triggering smog-like conditions. Air pollution affects the environment. Some of the effects of the air pollution on the environment are given below. Say acid rain, anthropification, depletion of ozone and ozone hole at poles, effects on wildlife, global climate change, reduced visibility, global warming, and sea level rise due to the glacier melting. So these are the effects. Many air pollutants posing risk to our health, even in concentration below the threshold smell. We might not even feel that we are breathing polluted air. However, long periods of time, even very low levels of pollutants in the air may have ill effects on our health. The most exposed people due to these pollutants are those working and living in the pollutant environments, various industries, building with pollutants in the indoor air, or in the metro cities. Smog is a reality all over the world. In all metro cities, this is a serious problem involving outdoor pollution and potentially affecting large number of people. Then air pollution gets into our bodies through the respiratory tracts and lungs, where they potentially get absorbed into our bloodstream, circulate, affecting various other parts and organs of our body. The effect of the air pollution involves a large variety of illness, starting with the simple irritation of eyes, nose, mouth, throat, diminished energy levels, headache, dizziness, but potentially more serious conditions, of which the most common are listed below. So these are the, say, some of the simple irritations is eye irritation, nose irritation, mouth irritation, throat or diminished energy levels, headache or dizziness, but very serious illness due to the air pollutions are given below, that is the respiratory and lung diseases, asthma attacks, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, reduced lung function, pulmonary cancer caused by a series of carcinogenic chemicals that enter the body through the inhalation. Then a particular type of lung cancer usually associated with the exposure to the asbestos, which takes near about 20 to 30 years to see the signal after the exposure to asbestos. So it takes a long time to realize that you have been affected by the asbestos, and this type of cancer, lung cancer, happens after 20 to 30 years after the exposure. And pneumonia is very common. Other diseases are such as leukemia, a type of another blood cancer associated with the exposure to the benzene vapors. Birth defects and immune system defects are all other examples. Cardiovascular problems, heart disease, and stroke, high risk, especially due to the particulate matter. Then you have a neurobehavioral disorders, neurological problems, development of deficits due to air toxins such as mercury, which is the only volatile metal. Liver and other types of cancer caused by the breathing carcinogenic volatile chemicals, and premature deaths occur due to the effect of the air pollution, breathing. Outdoor pollution may lead to more than 3 million premature deaths, more than 3 million deaths, or even more than 4 million premature deaths globally per year. About 75% of these deaths occur in Asia. So you say that because Asia is having the very large population, so most of the effects and most of the countries are the developing or underdeveloped countries. So most of the premature deaths due to this is due to air pollution is 75% is the occurs in Asia. Air pollutants such as ozone and tiny particles, that is PM 2.5 and PM 10.10, toxins linked with the heart disease, lung disease, and other serious affections that have long-term impacts on the human health. Strokes and heart attacks are responsible for nearly 75% of the air pollution related mortality. A little over 25% is related to the respiratory. So you can say 75% is with the due to the air related mortality and 25% due to the respiratory disease and lung cancer. This was published by these authors in 2015 in a Live Science Contributor. Outdoor pollution, as per the OECD, that is Organizations for the Economic Cooperation and Development, as per them, the reports suggest that outdoor air pollution could cause 6 to 9 premature deaths a year by 2060, and it will cost 1% global GDP, around 2.6 trillion US dollars annually. So this will be a great impact on the human or on the global level, that is 1% global GDP or around 2.6 trillion US dollar will be lost due to the air pollution, and 1% GDP. As a result of sick days, medical bills, reduced agriculture output, unless action is taken in timely. So these are the factors that there will be due to the sickness. The people will not report to the offices or the factories. Their medical bills will be very high, and agriculture output will also be reduced, and we will discuss in the next few minutes how agriculture affects the air pollution affects the agriculture output. Or so one have to take a immediate action to reduce, to avoid this type of The biggest rises in the mortality rates from air pollution are forecast in India, China, Korea, and Central Asian countries like Uzbekistan, where rising population and congested cities mean more people are exposed to power plant emissions and traffic accidents. So these most of the deaths are in India, China, Korea, and these Central Asian countries in Uzbekistan. Premature deaths are forecast to be 3 times higher in 2060 than 2010 in China and up to 4 times higher in India, with the elderly people and children are most vulnerable due to the air pollution. So this is the report reported by the OECD report. Death rates are seen stabilizing. Death means the mortality rates or death rates are stabilizing in the United States and falling in the Western Europe due to the cleaner energy and transport. So they have already taken the into account and they have started to use cleaner energy and transport. So therefore, this effect will be less in, or it has been stabilized in the United States and falling in the European countries. This slide again from the OECD says that by say this black dots on the graph shows the present mortality rate per year per million people, and the shaded portion shows the highest possible mortality rate by 2060, and this one red graph shows that it will be the minimum this much mortality per million per year due to the air pollution. So you can see that China and India are most vulnerable, and so most of the there's 2,000 people per year per million will be premature death due to air pollution maximum, and maybe 1,500 in China and maybe 1,000 people instead of 500 in India due to the premature death by 2060. So this was again reported in OECD report 2016. Household air pollution is one of the leading causes of the disease and premature deaths in the developing world. Smoke from the cooking fires causes 3.8 million premature deaths each year, mostly in the low and middle income countries, including burning fuels such as dung, wood, coal, and inefficient stoves or open hearths produces variety of pollutants. So these are the things which are responsible for the air pollutants, and they produces say a particular matter, methane, polyaromatic hydrocarbons, volatile organic compounds, etc. Burning kerosene in wick lamps also produces significant emission of particles and other pollutants. Indoor air pollutants are health hazards to children and adults from respiratory illness. So these are the due to the household air pollutions. Then coming to the impact on the pollutants on the animals, the air pollution harms animals due to the direct exposure to the contaminants and destruction of their habitats, food and water sources. For instance, acid rain, which forms when the pollutants in the atmosphere combine with the precipitation, causes aluminium to leach out of the soil and poisoning, and this kills the fish and other marine life. Predators are at the risk of harm from air pollution due to the bioaccumulation, which is the build-up of high concentration of toxic chemicals that occur when the animals consume these contaminated organisms, including fish and small mammals and plants. Pollutions affect animals by destroying their habitats, forcing them to migrate and causing disease or vulnerability. So destroying habitats is like this. Most animals thrive in areas that have good plant growth. However, due to the pollution, plants may start dying off. For example, an industry poorly disposes of the toxic chemicals, vegetation cover in the region may be affected, and once vegetation reduces, animals will have nothing to eat and may begin starving. Then, due to the pollution in areas such as oceans or lakes, marine life may start dying off. Toxic chemicals mixing with the water causes poisoning to these animals and which have nowhere else to go. This can cause mass deaths in the marine life. Then migration, when an area is polluted and food is the region in the region is no longer available or viable, animals may opt to migrate. However, they may migrate to areas that are not conducive to their lifestyles, and this will mean that number of them will be during migration and reproduction may be affected and causing animals to greatly reduce in numbers. Then destruction of the ozone layer, water pollution, air toxicity and land pollution can all contribute to making the animals vulnerable to disease and other forms of attacks. I will not discuss much about the ozone because yesterday Dr. Som already talked much, a whole talk on the ozone, so I will not be talking about, but what are the effects of the ozone on the yield I will be taking into account. The ozone also damages the carbon sink role of the vegetation, leaving more carbon oxides in the atmosphere to enhance the greenhouse effect and potential global warming. Human produced compounds such as chlorofluorocarbon and halides containing chlorine and bromine destroy ozone, and which you might have heard about the ozone hole, and that is produced our entire south and north pole during springtime, and so I am not going in detail over this. So this is the location of my laboratory. This is a satellite picture, and this is a layout of the laboratory and different sites. So National Physical Laboratory has the latitude longitude like this: 28 degrees 65 minutes north and 77 degree 27 minutes east, and it is 220 meters above sea level. The daily temperature varies from 47 degree in summer and minimum 2 degree in the winter season, and dry summer season starts from March to July and monsoon from July to October, and winter. So we made the measurements here. So these are the instruments used for the ozone measurement, and the instrument measures the relative attenuational beam of ultraviolet light about 254 nanometers between sample in which the ozone is present and other where no ozone is there. So this difference in the absorption and knowing the length of this, you can calculate the ozone value. So depending on the meteorological conditions in Delhi, ozone may go as high as 150 parts per billion, and sometimes maybe around 50-60 parts per billion. So depending on meteorology, so diurnal variation is shown like this. Then most of the time in summer and in the autumn, the values, this is WHO standard, and so it's beyond in summer, and autumn is most of the times from 97 to 2003, it's above the ambient standard from WHO. And this again shows that year-wise 1997 to 2000, how in summer values are very high, in March it's very low, and again in the autumn it's high and winter is in between. Then this slide shows how the ozone varies in rural and urban areas, and how can you distinguish whether this is a rural area or urban area. So in the urban area, the rate of change of ozone in the morning as well as in the evening is the same, while in the rural areas in the morning it's very high, but in the rate of change of ozone during afternoon hours it is very slow. So this is the value of the Anandnagar rural area, Anandpur, and this is at Gadanki, and this is again a Pune, again a rural site, and this shows the Ahmedabad, and this is for Delhi. So Ahmedabad and Delhi are the urban cities, while these three are the rate of change of ozone during the year that I already talked. So these are the other measurements made with the ozone as well as the uh, say NO and NOx. So you can see that as the ozone increases, the NO and NOx decreases, and these are the how the diurnal variation of this in different times. Then we had made the measurements of PM, say particulate matter also, and used a green particle analyzer. It has a range from zero point 0.3 to 20 micrometer range, and it has a 15 channels, so you can identify that how much particulate matter in different channels. And then we had made some case study where we measured during a say we measured our this measurement um, of NOx and ozone during a festival known as Diwali festival. There's a festival lights, and you can see that ozone levels while night time is also very high, and this may be due to the reason that the crackers which we people use may produce the ultraviolet radiation and some other sources also, and so the ozone levels are high again, and almost the NO and other things almost 15 to 20 times more during the festival time than the normal. Similarly, particulate matter is as much as 15 times during the festival season uh, uh, than the normal season. Then this slide shows the how the I think this cursor has spoiled my has spoiled my slide. So it's made all these colors. I don't know why. So there is something wrong with the cursor. Anyhow, so you can see the how the particular matter from point 3 to point 10 changes, and most of the particles are in this range. Say 98% are below the 1 micrometer range, and only 2% are above the 1 micrometer region. And these are shows the three diagrams shows the winter, summer, monsoon, and winter, how the particle matter changes with season. And again, this slide shows how the foggy day and clear day aerosol changes. So in the hazy day, aerosols are very high, and in the clear day, it's low. This slide shows very clean area aerosol measurements and very polluted city like Delhi. So Leh, where we have measurements which is about this from sea level 3.3 kilometers above sea level, and Hanley is nearly 4 kilometers above sea level. So you can see that Delhi has a very high level of pollution. It is variability due to the um, meteorological conditions and exposure emission by the vehicles and etc. And this pink one shows the particular matter at Leh, and the other sorry at Hanley, and this shows at the Leh, which is slightly populated city, while the Hanley is almost you will hardly see any vehicle. This is another day's values for the three cities. And this slide shows the how the NO and other NO and other chemicals changes with the season. So from this slide, you know that the most of the particular matter is zero point 0.3 to 4 micrometer region, 3 to 4 micro micrometer range, and only 2% is below this one. And these are the how. Then researchers have known that man-made climate change will harm yields of important crop, possibly causing problems for the world's food security. And there have been studies by Barney and Ramanathan systematically investigate the impact of the air pollution and anthropogenic climate change in crops in India, and where yields have decreased in recent decade despite continued improvement in agriculture technology. And they said that as much as 50% yield losses have been reported in some states of India. And the study showed that overall pollution has caused a third of loss in wheat and one-fifth of the loss in the rice yield during 2010 compared to the baseline 1980. This slide shows how the different states the yield has changed in comparison to 1980 to 2010. This is from Ramanathan and his colleagues. Then how the ozone affects the agriculture yield. The UN National Economic Commission of Europe and USA Environment Protection Agency has developed a formula for calculating the yield loss due to ozone by defining AOT40, that is a index, response index function, that is accumulation exposure over threshold of 40 ppb. Means every hour they take the measurements of ozone and subtract if it is more than 40 ppb and take the summation over a long period of time, maybe for one season, say 3 months, or maybe for a forest 6 months, and this will give the information how much loss is there. So as per the WHO, the AOT40 value of 10,000 parts per billion hour for daylight hours over a 6-month period has been established a critical level for the protection of the forest. So it should not exceed 10,000 parts per billion hours for keeping the safe limit for the forest. And for the agriculture crops, the 5% loss is in the yield, and if the AOT40 value of 3000 ppb hours for daylight hours over 3 months time. So if the AOT for 3 months is more than 3000 or around 3000 pp per hour, there will be a 5% loss, and as it increases it will more and more loss. So we made our own measurements for the season, say June, July, August, and October, November, December. This is Kharif and Rabi seasons in India, and with our measurements, we found that most of the time the values of the AOT40 is about 3000 parts per billion hour in the Rabi seasons, say in 1997, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2004, and 2005, and in the Kharif also sometimes. So there is a loss of the crop yield due to the ozone. Then coming to the economic consequences of the production, I will talk about it shortly. The reduction in global economic output will be around 3,000 US dollar per person. Annual healthcare costs related to air pollution rise to 176 billion US dollar from US say 21 billion dollars in 2015. The number of work days lost due to air pollution related to illness sum to 3.7 billion from 1.2 billion. The number of leaves cut short by the air pollution is already terrible, and the potential rise in the next few decades is terrifying. There will be also be heavy economic cost to not taking if we don't take the action in time. We must prevent these projections from becoming the reality. The projected GDP losses will be biggest in China, Russia, India, Korea, countries like Eastern Europe and Caspian region, as health cost of lower productivity will hit the or lower labor productivity will hit the output. Poor air quality will hit China's economy harder than India's because difference in household saving rates and the demographics. Reduction in crop yield due to the dirty air will weigh and on most countries economic except Brazil and Russia and some Latin American countries where the agricultural land will be less affected, more export due to their more export competitiveness and economic gains. So this slide shows that the how the economic loss will be due to agriculture, labor, the low productivity and reduced uh, farm output by the air pollution. So except Russia and Brazil, agriculture loss will be less, will be, so we can, so most of the countries have a loss to the health and lower productivity. So thank you very much. The material for this presentation was taken from the various sources, and I sincerely acknowledge the same and express my sincere thanks to all. And I hope you all enjoyed the talk, and if you have some questions, we'll be taking questions now. Thank you very much. And coming to questions, welcome all of you. Let us see if there are some questions. The core asks, has the amount of particulate matter fallen since its public appeal by WHO, who maintains that reducing particulate matter alone could lower the number of deaths? Of course, some of the developed countries, as I said, say in US, their premature deaths has already been stabilized, and in European countries, it's already falling down. But most of the developing and developed, underdeveloped countries, it is still there, and because due to the resources and the clean energy resources and they want to develop their resources, and for that they have emit more and more, and so they have to expose these things. So of course the countries are taking actions, but still it is there. So it is, I appreciate this question, and everyone should take it to account and try to reduce the emission level so premature deaths are reduced. What is the difference between London smoke and LA smoke? London smoke was due to the sulfur dioxide and sulfur oxides in the atmosphere. So when they breathed it, it was very harmful, and a lot of deaths took place. But in Los Angeles smoke is due to the nitrogen and of hydrocarbons, which produces more ozone in the atmosphere, which gets eye irritation, throat irritation, lung problems, but that was not that much serious. So London smoke was almost 3-4 days they got to 3,000, 4,000 deaths, while London the Los Angeles was not that much serious, but yes, it affects the health, and if the ozone levels goes very high. How we can control the air pollution at basic level? Basic level is very simple. We have to use clean energy. We should conserve the energy. Say if you don't need light, why you should put it on? If you don't need the fan, I have not put the fan on. So that is the simple things you can do, everyone can do. Say if you go going somewhere, if you can take the public transport, that will save a lot of emission instead of taking your own car. Or if it is necessary, you can have a pool of 3 or 4 people to go in a single car. So that will again reduce the emission level. But best is the use buses or the public transport, metro, to reduce the emission levels. So these are the small things, but makes a lot of difference. And put lot of trees around you and don't cut the forest. And so these are the basic levels one can try, and uh, try to avoid the use of plastic, because they are ingredient, they life is very long, they are not being destroyed easily. So don't use the plastic bags and etc., and try to recycle the things, because if you throw away the things, then you have to again and again buy the thing, and the manufacturer has to produce that. So that will again have more emissions. So one should try to recycle the things. Then Sanjeev asked how and from where I can pollution data for your city. Most of the places, the Central Pollution Control Board has the measurement data, and so you can ask them to give the data, and it should be easily available. So Central Pollution Control Board has the all over country, they have put the stations, and they have to put more and more, but still they have some. Say in Delhi, they have 10-12 stations where they have the measurements. Because laboratories say PRL and PL also has the measurements, but they will be isolated for some period or time, but the CPC will be the having the regular data. Then Samit Taksa Talukdar asked, how can we assess the health effect of black carbon particles over a location? This will again give the information if you really measuring the black carbon, and that will give the because it's very limited places where the black carbons are measured. So one have to be very serious about, but still we are lagging the data. But some efforts are being made to make the black carbon, and then the you can get the data from the hospital to assess the health effect on the black carbon by correlating black carbon measurements and the cases reported in the hospital. Krishna Kumar Subedi, I there my maybe is there any pressure from the scientific community to government of India to reduce air pollution? Yes, scientific community is, that say Montreal Protocol, which affected this is one of the best agreement throughout the world due to scientific pressure that reduce or they have stopped the use of chlorofluorocarbons, which are responsible for the ozone hole or ozone depletion in the whole globe. So over Antarctica and other places. So that similar way efforts are being made by the international communities, that is a international panel on climate change, to reduce the emission. And there is a one agreement, Paris agreement, which says that in uh, almost all countries should take into effect that their emission levels are reduced by some level. And it was signed by many countries, but and USA also signed. But later on, when Professor Mr. The present president, say Trump came, he walked away from this agreement. But still efforts are made that the developed countries may support the underdeveloped or developing countries to clean energy and to reduce the emission level. And similarly, scientific community, say myself wrote in 1996 that ozone levels to the environmental secretary government of India, that we should develop a ozone ambient quality standard for India, and after a few years they did it. So yes, there is always a pressure. Can air pollution data available by be gained free? Yes, most of the data are free. You can ask this CBCB. They will provide you easily data for a scientific purpose. Expect then Parminder Kaur says expect ground-based instrument. Is there any satellite given the black carbon or particulate matter also? Yes, I think they are available. You can go to NASA uh, NASA's website, and I think you can find some data. But sometimes they charge also. But I have not recently in contact with them, but there should be available from satellite data. Yes. Yeah, Calypso and Toms. Toms is mostly for the ozone, and Calypso measure the this particulate matter and other aerosol and all these things. So that is LiDAR based instrument. Volcanic gases produces which type of pollutants? They produce all sort of these pollutants. Mostly PM to the particular matter are the most of the production, and which affects a lot of ill effect to the health. And otherwise, these other gases are also there, just say NOx and hydrocarbons. Everything is there because it's a huge thing. And if you know that. In 90s there was a Pinatubo this volcano explosion, and there was a global temperature due to that was reduced by a few degrees because all sky was with the aerosols, particulate matter, and it's reduced the solar radiation reaching to the earth, and so reduced the global temperature, but it was a short period of time. Sami Taksha Talukar is asking about the threshold value of black carbon. Uh, I don't remember anything like that. You can go to the WHO site and see if there is any. So, is there any more questions? So, if there are no more questions, I can again thank you all, and I hope we have a good conversation, and still if you have some questions you can write to me or by email or calling me on telephone, or we will be able to answer your questions, and hopefully this will be useful talk, and maybe you can try yourself to keep your environment clean around you, or save the energy and save the mother planet earth by contributing something to it and conserve the energy. Thank you very much.